On November 15th, 2006, Jim Crocodile Cook faced off against Tyranno Hasselberry in a duel during the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. Jim Crocodile Cook would go on to fusion summon using a spell card known as Fossil Fusion. Remember, this was back in 2006. Almost 14 years later, and Fossil Fusion is finally coming to the real-life Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. 14 years later. Are we kidding? Hello, everyone. It's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. Now, I know these videos are more rare for me when I talk about news regarding the TCG and OCG, and I always say this, if you are looking for really good analysis from a competitive point of view, my channel probably is not the best channel for that. I'm more focused on the anime, but whenever there's news regarding big anime cards or very well-known anime cards, anime-exclusive cards that are finally getting printed, I do like to discuss it. I just did a video recently, as a matter of fact, about the Obelisk Slime that is finally actually being printed as a card in the OCG, and a lot of you guys seem to really enjoy that. So we are going to go over two cards pertaining to Jim Crocodile Cook's Fossil archetype, which was an archetype that, since he debuted it back in 2006, has been anime exclusive forever, really until now. There was a poll. It's actually because of you guys, because of the fans that allowed this archetype to get printed. There was a poll of 12 exclusive anime decks, and people were allowed to vote on which deck they wanted to see printed. Spectre's Sun Avalons put up a very good fight. They were runner-up, but the winner of that voting was Jim Crocodile Cook's Fossils. And so thanks to the community, an archetype that I have always enjoyed, and I know a lot of people have always enjoyed, is finally getting printed. We only know two cards that are getting printed, and we know the two sets that they are coming out for in the OCG and the set it's coming out for in the TCG. In the OCG, it's called Collection Pack 2020, and it will be coming out June 6th, 2020, so a little later this year. And actually, this just got announced, I think, in the last 24 hours. Battles of Legend Armageddon is set for impact this July in the TCG, and in an incredible discovery, Jim Crocodile Cook's fossil cards from GX have been unearthed. I actually like how they wrote that. It's almost as if, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Researchers from Konami were digging in the ruins and were like, oh my god, Jim Crocodile Cook's fossil cards are here. We gotta print these. So that is kind of really fun how they worded that. And let's get into the cards that we are getting in Jim Crocodile Cook's archetype, and we're definitely going to be getting more of these. We got a big boss that is revealed, and of course, Fossil Fusion. The first card that had to be revealed whenever they were going to give us fossils is Fossil Fusion. This deck, this is the card that makes the deck function. If you were ever going up against fossils, as long as you can get rid of Fossil Fusion, as long as you have some way to mitigate Fossil Fusion, I'm pretty sure this deck is really kind of ineffective at that point. I mean, Fossil Fusion is the card that makes everything work in this deck. And of course, if I'm wrong about that, please let me know down below. Of course, it is a fairly new deck, but I guess you guys can kind of give your predictions. I just remember from the anime, Jim Crocodile Cook needed Fossil Fusion to get off 90% of his big combos, and it is a very vital card for the deck. So it's a normal spell card that allows you to fusion summon one Fossil Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters from either grave as material. If you banish monsters from both graveyards with this effect, the special summoned monster cannot be targeted by effects. So you can summon a fusion monster, a Fossil Fusion, by just banning from your opponent's grave or just banishing from your grave. But if you can do one of each, or just maybe two from your grave and one from another grave, although I think most Fossil Fusions just need 1 and 1. So if you can pull off 1 and 1, then whatever monster you summon cannot be targeted by monster effects, kind of encouraging you to try and use your opponent's deck to summon a Fossil Fusion monster. And then the other effect, which is very important because it allows you to continuously recycle Fossil Fusion. If a face-up Fossil Fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, and this card is in your grave, you can add this card from your grave to your hand. So you're not limited if you only draw Fossil Fusion once. You're not limited to just using it one time unless there's something that's going to negate the effect of Fossil Fusion being revived into your hand. You will be able to continuously recycle it, which makes this deck very potent. But again, kind of vulnerable because if someone's going up against fossils, they know that Fossil Fusion is the card they need to spend all their resources on stalling or on breaking, and that is going to hurt a lot of combos of this deck. But Fossil Fusion, it's a fun spell, man, and it's such a unique spell. I don't really know many spell cards that do what Fossil Fusion does. Many fusion cards, I should say. And again, if there are any fusion cards that use this kind of style, please let me know down below. I can't think of any off the top of my head where you actually banish monsters from either graveyard to use the material. It's very unique, and the design is so simplistic, but that's what makes this design so incredible. It looks at first glance very similarly to how a normal fusion spell card looks, but then if you look closer, the orange circle is not actually a circle, and it's two dino skeletons that are fusing, and I've just always loved the design and the simplicity of Fossil Fusion's artwork. The final card that was revealed as a card that is going to get printed, it is a big boss monster, Paleozoic Fossil Knight Skull King. 4K Media, when they dubbed it, actually they were 4Kids back then, called it Fossil Warrior Skull King. Probably will be its TCG name. Not that much different than Paleozoic Fossil Knight Skull King. You know, sometimes the TCG changes card names very minorly. This is kind of a case of that. But it is a level 8 Earth Rock Fusion effect monster with a big 2800 attack points. Materials: 1 rock monster and 1 level 7 or higher monster. It must be summoned with Fossil Fusion, and that is really why Fossil Fusion is so potent and needed in fossils, because I think almost every Fossil Fusion card has that requirement where it has to be summoned by Fossil Fusion. The effects of Fossil Knight Skull King: it can make a second attack during each battle phase. If this card attacks a defense position monster, you can inflict piercing battle damage. And then finally, during your opponent's turn, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard 1 card, and if you do, special summon that target to your field. So that is by far the best effect that this boss monster has. Literally any card. I don't think there's any sort of restriction on that. Any card that your opponent has in their grave that you have been able to defeat, or maybe you're playing against an opponent that sends a lot of monsters to grave, you can just kind of snatch whatever monster you want and just summon it right to your field. That is a really good effect. And then, of course, 2 attacks, not bad. It doesn't have any sort of protection, which isn't the best, but still. Fossil Warrior Skull King is the only fossil monster and will always be the first fossil monster to be printed after a 13-year wait. So guys, these are the only 2 fossil monsters that we have, or the fossil cards, I should say, one being a spell and one being the Fusion Ace. I'm pretty sure most of the fossil cards really are fusion-based, and I think that we're going to have maybe a lot more main deck fossil monsters. One of my favorites was always Fossil Dragon Skullgios, which was just a T-Rex with bones. It was basically a fossil T-Rex brought to life. But the way you summon that, I'm just looking at it now, is it's got 3,500 attack, by the way. 1 rock-type monster in your graveyard, and 1 level 7 or higher dino-type monster in your opponent's graveyard. So again, there are a lot of fossil monsters that maybe will have more generic summoning conditions. Like, if Skullgios actually gets printed, the summoning conditions might be more generic. That is very specific, because if you're not going up against an opponent that is using a dino deck, or Shadal Dinos, which funny enough is the only deck that I've actually built in real life, then you're kind of out of luck, and you have really no chance to summon Skullgios unless you change the typing of your opponent's monster in grave, which I'm sure is possible, but then at that point, is it even worth it? So I am interested to keep an eye on all this when the fossil monsters do get more and more revealed to us, to see if the fusion requirements will become a little more generic, and also if we are going to get more main deck and effect monsters that are not from the extra deck for the fossil archetype. Because I remember Jim Crocodile Cook didn't really use many main deck monsters. It was almost all fusion monsters, at least from my memory, but it has been a while since I've watched Jim Crocodile cook in action. Almost 13 years to be exact. So fossils are finally here, guys. It's exciting news. If you're over in the OCG, it's going to come out in June. If you're in the TCG, like probably most people watching this video, you only have to wait until July. So let me know all your thoughts about fossils. Again, I probably don't give the best analysis when it comes to competitive gameplay, but hopefully it was tolerable and you learned something new. It has been a long time, and whenever these anime exclusive cards get shown to us and these decks finally get printed, I do enjoy covering them because I think it's really, really cool that cards and archetypes that are decades old finally are coming to the TCG. Will they make an impact in the meta? Probably not, but hey, you never know. And how amazing would it be if fossils somehow did end up becoming a top tier or a very good deck? A special thank you to my platinum tier patrons Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Vincent Van Der Veen, Panther J, Smith 620, Jorge Leon, Blue Maiden 28, Jarrett Buller, and Gabe G, and to my diamond tier patrons Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, Sean, and Melinda Phantom, and to my Egyptian god tier patron Syn Cloud. Thank you to everyone who watches my videos, to everyone who is a patron, and to everyone who is a channel member. I would not be able to do this without all of you. Stay healthy, stay safe. I love you all. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.